Hi everybody, and a very good afternoon. Welcome back to Snetterton and the second part of our live stream here for the BRSCC two-day meeting in the sunshine in Norfolk. Who could ask for more? And if so, what would you ask for? Well, I tell you, the thing I'd probably ask for is a grid full of immaculate cars. That's what we're about to get. What sort of cars? The Blue Oval, Ford, the modified Ford series about to come out on track. Empty circuit at the moment, just the course car going around, just making sure everything is clear after our final qualifying session we've just had. But we've got everything Ford represented in the modified series. It's not a championship. As a result, this series is extremely well supported. It was started by Paul Neville a few years ago. BRSCC delighted to have these cars with us today with a full grid and multiple classes, which Scott Woodward will be able to tell you a little bit about once we get into the racing. Pole position going to Dave Cockle with the 95 Escort Cosworth. Then we've got the RSR of Jack Gadd. Now the RSR, for those of you who don't know, they're space-framed replica Mark II Escorts. Has been a little bit of talk about maybe a series running for those. I was chatting to one of the drivers about that in the paddock over the lunch break, and I think it would be something that everyone wants to do, but the guy that builds the cars maybe not in a place to do that at the moment. So we get to enjoy the RSR cars, the space frame Mark II replicas in this championship. Then on row 2 we've got the Cobra engine Ford Capri of Simon Light and the Focus RS of James Allen. Let's turn and have a look at this fantastic set of cars that we've got. I said Mark II, it's a Mark I RSR. But there's Dave Cockle on pole position. Jack Gadd in the Mark I Escort. And as I say, that is the Mark I you'll know from the late 60s and early 70s, but this is a fully space frame racer. The Capri is the Cobra engine Capri of Simon Light. Then we've got the gap where the Focus RS should be, so that's a little bit of a worry. Then we go back to Cosworth, Mark II Escorts, you name it, it is out there. An absolutely stunning grid of cars that we have for you. Multi-class racing, so the winners are going to come from different classes and be different types of cars. So you could be racing something like a modified Fiesta. We'll see the Fiesta Championship tomorrow. If you've got a heavily modified version, you can come into this championship and ride it and race it as well. So cars are very nearly on the grid. We're listening out for the whistle, which will tell us to clear the grid. Who are you going to put your money on out of this lot? The RSR is going to be very quick for sure. So too is the Cosworth, but this Capri will have different characteristics along the straight with the huge engine underneath. And if we can grab, you see the power bulge on the front. The Capris, of course, back in the day were noted for the power bulge. The bonnet barely fits on. You've got that gap right in there to squeeze the engine in, and lots of tubing inside the car to get it all cooled down. I'm going to head off the grid now, but what I will do is hand you over to a man who'll tell you all about the classes and give you a full rundown on the grid. It's Scott Woodward.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yes, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to this one. I am very much, because this has become one of my favourite series on the BRSCC roster, and what a wonderful addition it's been ever since they joined last year. The modified Ford series with an incredible entry. We had 37 cars entered. It looks like we'll get 33 on the grid, so we've lost 1 or 2 from that entry, sadly. But what an entry it is, and as Richard rightly says, we've got such a wonderful variety of cars, a great mixture of very powerful, fast Fords here of all different shapes and sizes. As Richard sadly mentioned, it does appear that the James Allen Ford Focus RS Mark II is not on the grid. One car I can see that's just got to the end of the pit lane is a car I was going to talk about, which is 170, and that is our friend and yours from BRSCC and from Club Racing UK, Rob Lewis, who's making one of his first appearances in modified Fords this year in his Ford Focus ST170. It looks like he's going to start from the pit lane, it looks like. But the last few cars have been grouped up towards the back of the field. You can see the RunYourFleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car at the front of the grid. Big thank you to Run Your Fleet, as always, for their continued support as a support sponsor of BRSCC. And make sure to head to the website runyourfleet.com for any of your business sort of vehicle fleet management needs. They have everything they can to try and help you out to make that a little bit smoother, a little bit more efficient, and a little bit more better working all around. We should mention also that this weekend, alongside their main sort of driver of the weekend sponsors, Scale Electric, Modified Fords is sponsored by SHP Motorsport Engineering this weekend. So big thank you to SHP Motorsport Engineering, which of course is, I believe, Sonny Howard's company. Sonny Howard's. And so if anyone who knows Sonny Howard will know that he's quite prominent in circles such as pickup truck racing and legends, and he's been one of the people that's been keeping those American-style races together, but he also is quite a Ford fanatic as well, and therefore he is all too welcome to be one of our sponsors for this weekend for the Modified Ford Series. So you can see, looking down the grid, as Richard mentioned, we've got Escort Cosworths, Capris, Escorts of all different shapes and sizes and generations. There's Sierras, both Cosworths and Sapphires. You've got Fiesta ST150s. There's also a few Ford Pumas in there, and even a couple of different other models in there too, including one or two very unique and quirky ones as well. So head off onto their formation lap. It's a rolling start for the Modified Ford Series. 3 races for them this weekend, all 15 minutes in length. We can give you the grid as how they ended up in qualifying. Well, there was only one man who genuinely couldn't be stopped in qualifying, and it's Dave Cockle, because anytime he turns up in that fire-breathing Ford Escort Cosworth of his, he tends to dominate. He did that already in qualifying. He was the only man to go sub 2 minutes in qualifying, on 1 minute 59.350, and he was on pole by, check this out, 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds between first and second in qualifying is utterly phenomenal. That's just how fast this Escort Cosworth is. It has several hundred horsepower, and it is an absolute rocket in a straight line, so do not underestimate that at all. That thing will literally fly off the line down towards Richie's corner. He starts alongside Jack Gadd in his Space Frame Mark 1 Escort RSR. Row 2 is going to be the Cobra engined Capri of Simon Light. It's one of the best sounding cars on the grid. It's one of my favourites of the weekend already, because every time it's come past me on the pit straight, it sounds like an Australian V8 supercar. It's a beautiful car that's been put together, and a beautiful sounding car as well. So if you get a chance to hear that on the microphones here on the live stream, do listen out for it and turn the volume up. As we mentioned, unfortunately, it looks like we don't have James Allen in his Ford Focus RS Mark II. That's a time attack spec car which we saw out at Silverstone at the beginning of the season in March. That should have started 4th on the grid, but sadly it's not there, I'm afraid, so that will be a non-starter, it seems. Ashley Shelswell is there, you can see just on screen there, in the white and blue and orange Ford Sierra V6 XR4i. And then we have Steve Scott Dunwoody in his Ford Sierra Cosworth RS500. It's one of my favourite cars of all time as well. There's a couple of those on the grid. And he is just ahead of Dave Matthias in his number 87 car, which I believe is also another Ford Sierra Cosworth. It says it's supposed to be a Sapphire Cosworth, but it definitely looks like an RS500 to me. Neil Jessup comes next, ahead of Mike Thurley. They're in a pair of Zach Speed Escorts. I believe they might be replicas. If I've mislabeled them for being genuine, then I do apologise. But Neil Jessup's rather wonderful looking black, red, orange and yellow Mark II Zach Speed car is 8th, and then it's Mike Thurley's Mark 1 example that starts 9th, and then Tony Paxman, his Mark 1, is in 10th position. Then this next car, I'm not misreading this, 11th place, AJ Howe, you'll see it on screen in a second, in a moment, in the Ford Focus Estate. Yes, I did say Estate, that obviously should be on the grid, but unfortunately I can't see it there. So either he started with the pit lane or he's had some problems in qualifying, which if he has, that's a real shame, because that car is also X-Time Attack spec, and it should have been started from 11th place. Wayne Crabtree should also be there as well. He appeared in the very first Modified Ford Series with the BRSCC, running with them, and he was in a very extreme Subaru engined Ford RS200. He's in a Mark 1 Escort this time, starting 12th. Let's quickly run through the rest of the grids. They're already on the Bentley Straight. So Caitlin May, who's racing the Fiesta Champion this season in her brand new ST240 that she debuted in the series in this series at Brands Hatch, starts in 13th place in her ST240. She's alongside Nigel Craig in his Escort Mark II. Then Justin Fuller's Puma and an Fiesta XR2 of John Edwards Parson was having 1 or 2 heating issues just as it came out the assembly area in qualifying, but it's out there in 16th. And Harry Hardy's Ford Puma, Dave Gadd's Escort Mark 1. Top 20 completed by Lloyd Jameson and his Escort Cosworth, and another Escort Cosworth, which is driven by Malcolm Wise. Then Rob Lewis will start for the pit lane. He was going to be 21st on the grid, but he starts from the pit lane alongside Tim Sandu. Then Kevin Hadfield in his Ford Puma, and the Smiths in their Escort Mark 1. Jason Stone's Fiesta ST150 comes next alongside the Ford Puma of Mark Hadfield. Anton Martin and his Mark 3 RSA 1600i. That's quite an unusual car to see on the field, but good to see a Mark 3 Escort there. 4 generations of Escort represented. And then we have, alongside the rest of the order, Richard Sanders and his ST150. Ben Cochran, who's also out there again. If it is the same Ben Cochran, I'll be surprised. But he's in a Fiesta Mark 2 this time. And then we have Piers Warwick in an Escort Mark 1. Gurpreet Sandhu in an ST150. Robert Tinto in a Ford Puma. Dave Barrett in his Fiesta Mark 4 in 33rd and last place. And also at the back of the grid I can see Paul Neville, the man behind the Modified Ford Series, is there in his Escort RS 2000. So if you've never seen it before, welcome to the Modified Ford Series. This is a wonderful grid of cars here. If you're all fans of Blue Oval Racing, you're going to be for an absolute treat here. Watch for an explosion of power and noise onto the straight here as they get underway. We've got a Ford Escort Cosworth and an Escort Mark 1 RS on the front row of the grid, a Capri on its own on the second row, and then we've got 3 Sierras, a V6 XR4i and 2 Sierra Cosworth RS500s. What a lineup for race number 1 of the weekend for the Modified Ford Series. Watch for the red light just to the left of the screen. On top of the Marshalls post, when it goes out, we'll be racing for Modified Fords. Race is underway, and straight away as I expected, off for the pole position, shoots Dave Cockle as he heads into turn 1. He already has his nose in front. Simon Light's having a look for second place up the inside of Jack Gadd, trying to put the nose of the Capri past the Escort Mark 1, but he can't make that one stick, and he finds himself under attack round the outside of Ashley Shellswell in the V6 Sierra XR4i. They turn their way out through Ritchie's down towards the hairpin, and I imagine that everyone's going to have to say bye-bye to Dave Cockle now, because he's going to put his foot to the floor and absolutely run away with it here, I imagine, unless he finds an issue. So Dave Cockle then leads the way with Jack Gadd in second place, heading into Palmer for the first time, slightly off camber left-handers. So they're going to try and wrestle the car around there, and then the short squirt towards the Agostini hairpin. So Cockle leads. It's Gadd second, Simon Light in third, Shellswell fourth, but it's Jessup in fifth, but he's under attack from one of the 2 Sierra RS500s behind there. I think that's possibly Steve Scott Dunwoody he's battling with in car number 45 it is. So good start from Neil Jessup there. He started 8th on the grid, up 2 places already, and now he's sandwiched in between the 2 RS500s. It's great to have 2 of those cars on the grid. We've got a couple of Sierras in, like Sapphire Cosworths, all sorts, but to have a couple of RS500s, proper old school Group A touring cars that are spitting flame, as you can see, Stephen Scott Dunwoody's car. It really is a wonderful addition for this weekend. Look at it. Literally fire breathing on the grid. There's the Mark 1 Escort, Zaxby's Escort, being chased now by Tony Paxman. Looks like we didn't get AJ Howe start the race in the Focus Estate, sadly, so hopefully we'll get him out for race 2. One car's run wide on the exit of Williams as they come down the back straight. It's John Edwards parted in a rather rapid Fiesta XR2. I think he was behind, it looked like maybe Nigel Craig in that silver Escort Mark 2. So as anticipated, it is Dave Cockle who is pretty much dominating the way so far as he heads down towards the bomb hole for the end of the first lap. There you can see one of the championship spec Fiesta Mark 7s, officially what we call an ST240 in the hands of Caitlin May. She'll be out in the Fiesta Championship for both races tomorrow, and already carving his way through the pack, you can see, is Paul Neville, who started at the back of the grid, and he's already got past, it looks like, I think that's Malcolm Wise. As we see here, car 110 running wide on the exit. That's Gurpreet Sandhu, one of the 2 Sandhus in the field, because Tim Sandhu also in another ST150. So end of the first lap of this first race for the Modified Ford Series. It's Cockle who leads, as expected, by 2.9 seconds. That's how fast this car really is. Jack Gadd in second place on the road, but I think he's having a bit of a transponder issue because he's definitely there in second place, but he's tumbling down the timing screen. So it's not Simon Light in second place. It is, in fact, Jack Gadd. He pops back in a few moments after they've crossed the line. There goes Neil Jessup in the foreground in the Mark II Escort Capri, and we've got the Zaxby's Mark 1 going wide there. That was Mike Thurley, now with a threat from Tony Paxman. I also think that was there, Nigel Craig, under a track, I think, from Wayne Crabtree in that Escort Mark 1. So here's an interesting duel. V6 Sierra versus 4-cylinder Sierra RS500. And there's a bit of a power difference, but they're both equally wonderful cars of their own. They make their way up through the left-hander of Hamilton, and then into Oggies now for the second time. There's 1 or 2 people in the comments already agreeing this is some wonderful looking cars in this series. Yes, Simon Light's Capri, this beautiful thumping Cobra V8 in there. It's genuinely one of the best sounding cars here this weekend. And there goes Neil Jessup in his Mark II Zaxby's Escort. What about that battle that was going on for 8th position between Thurley and Paxman? Still Thurley in control. There he is in the Castrol liveried Zaxby's Escort Mark 1. He's got the Tony Paxman car just behind him. Now, of course, as Richard was mentioning, there are classes within the Modified Forward Series, so we'll try and get ready for some of those as the race goes on. We're still fixed on this battle going on between these two beautifully prepared Mark 1 escorts. So the classes essentially this one, you have classes A to C. There are 4 classes between cars A to C. There's classes A, B1, Class B and C, and they're all UK and European Ford production cars of 10 years or older. So it has to be at least 10 years old to fit into one of those classes. And then you have they're all different types of different multi-valve forced induction engines or naturally aspirated. So they've got different classes for different types of engines, like different engine capacities, whether they're 4 cylinders or V6s, whether they're 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, whether they're naturally aspirated or have turbos or superchargers, different classes to work out the different cars that can fit in here. So it's quite a broad range of cars that can take part in this series, which is really good to see. And that's the reason why it's been so popular, why it's grown so much, and why there are so many different kinds of cars on the grid. Because if you've got a Ford, I mean, quite a few of the, as Caitlin May's proving, quite a few of the ST240s that are here this weekend and the ST150s that are at the Fiesta Championship could easily slot into one of these competitions and take part. But obviously it's all down to how people want to go racing. But this series had actually won a couple of awards last year, courtesy of, I think, Downforce Radio and Club Racing UK. So I think it was a 3-time award winner by the end of the season. So no wonder when Paul Neville's put together such a fabulous series and a wonderful array of cars here. Now, this battle has kind of broken away a little bit now. This is Mike Thurley pulling away from Tony Paxman. But in the front, I'm surprised that Jack Gadd is keeping up with Dave Cockle. Not that I doubt Jack Gadd's pace at all, but I was fully expecting Dave Cockle to run away with this and dominate by a couple of seconds per lap. There he is in the silver Escort Cosworth with the Lightning McQueen number 95 decals on the side. And Jack Gaddy's keeping him relatively honest. It might well be that he's got a decent amount of power underneath it. It might be the slightly better handling and aerodynamics of that Mark 1 RSR with that large front splitter and even larger rear wing that's keeping him in contest in some of the twistier technical sections. Whereas Cockle's Escort Cosworth, which has about, I'm sure must have at least 500 to 600 plus brake horsepower, is a genuine rocket on the straight. Achieve pretty extraordinary speeds. Now there's Simon Light's Cobra engine Capri. Hopefully you can hear that on the camera behind my commentary, because it's a fantastic car. It's going to come past my commentary box in a second. I'm just going to have a listen for a second. Yeah, definitely sounds like a V8 supercar to me. And he's got V8 supercar-like pace here as the two bewinged Fords head into Ritchie's for the 3rd time. So Mark 1 Escort RSR against V8 engine Capri. There's a battle that's going to make him out of the water. Jack Gadd and Simon Light, two very prominent drivers in this series also, so there's a good fun battle developing here, and I'm sure they're enjoying it as well. So with the classes, we can tell you who's leading what. There's also a couple more classes, Super A and Super B1, which I think has more for slightly more specialist cars on top of that as well. A bit further back in the pack here, we're looking at a couple more cars. One car, I'm afraid, is faltering, and that's the 191. That's one of the Super Tune Motorsport 4 Pumas, and there goes Rob Lewis round the outside in the Focus ST170, but I'm afraid car 190 is touring into possible retirement, and that, I'm afraid, is going to be 191. That's Harry Harley, unfortunately. So the Silver Puma in trouble. Bit of a switch on here between old and new. That's car 28, which is the Escort Mark 1. It's being driven by, if I can find him on the timing screen, which I can't quite at the moment. He's now battling away with 128, which is the Smiths, and that was scrapped with 134, which is the Jason Stone ST150. They're both being caught at the moment by Rob Lewis in that Focus ST170. There he goes, just going through Richie's corner there. And at the moment, let's give a shout out to where Rob is at the moment in the order. He currently sits at the moment in, where is he at the moment now? I think he's about, he's made some good progress actually. He's about, I think, 22nd or 23rd position, so he's carving his way through quite nicely. It's only a 15-minute race, but he's made a good bit of progress. There goes one of the Sapphire Cosworths in the order. We can see who that is. It's not quite making it clear who that is. There is a Sapphire Cosworth there, but who is? I think it's possibly, it's one of the Matthias's, I think. I was going to say Dave Matthias, but no, that Dave Matthias car is a Sierra RS500 rather than a Sapphire Cosworth. So Rob Lewis has also got around the Jason Stone ST150, so decent pace. What's his lap time last time by? He did a Let's have a look on the timing screen. 2:45, so he's getting there. He's picking up some decent pace, but there's different pace levels in here. In terms of class leaders, I can quickly run you through. Dave Cockle leads the way, quite a way in Class A, ahead of Ashley Shellswell and then Steve Scott Dunwoody's Sierra RS 500. In Class B, it's a lead for Neil Jessup in the Zaxby Mark II Escort, and then ahead of Mike Thurley's Escort Mark 1 Zax Speed, and then Tony Paxman's Escort Mark 1, the two of which have been battling over briefly 8th and 9th position. For Class B+, oh, is that Jack Gadd off the road? Now that's Jack Gadd, I think, from 2nd place. Now, either he's been off because he's possibly had an issue. Look, he was rejoining as coming back onto the circuit after he had a spin or a bit of contact. And the left front of that car is leaning down, so I suspect he's either got suspension problems or a puncture. One of the two. If he's got issues, he'll have to come back to the pit lane. But he was quite close battling with Simon Light. Now, we saw the end of that. I don't want to suggest immediately that there was contact between Simon Light and Jack Gadd, but if there was, we'll let the stewards work that one out rather than try and speculate. But unfortunately for Jack Gadd, he was running pretty strong. Crossed the line last time by, they were separated by about 0.8 of a second or so. So potentially, if he got quite close, there's a black and orange flag going out for somebody as well. Let's see if the timing screen will tell me who it is. It doesn't, unfortunately, at the moment, but someone has been giving a black and orange flag either because they've got bodywork trailing or they're possibly making too much noise. Because there are noise limits here in motorsport, believe it or not. So if a car happens to be being too noisy, you can get pulled in for essentially your car being too loud, and therefore you could find yourself ending your race prematurely. Then it's your responsibility, if you do get called up for being too noisy, to try and actually silence the car a bit more to conform with the noise limits. So what this will now do after the excursion for Jack Gadd is it will now mean that Simon Light's up to 2nd place, and the gap will be even further out. It'll be up to about roughly 5 or 6 seconds, because Jack Gadd was doing lap times of about roughly 2:10, but then Dave Cockle decides he wants to put his foot down and just pumps in a 2:07.9 for fun and brings the gap back out to about 10 seconds. It was 2 seconds at the line, so it looked like Dave was kind of not taking it too harsh at the beginning of the race, and then decided to turn the wick up on the turbo a bit more. And there is Jack Gadd pulling the car off, I'm afraid. So the Mark 1 RSR in trouble. Now again, whether or not that's just purely mechanical or if he did get helped off at all, we'll have to wait and see. But Jack Gadd's car pulling to a stop, and unfortunately that car will be going no further in this race. 3.5 minutes to go. As we see there, Rob Lewis making more progress up the order. He's got past the Escort, the Smiths in their Escort Mark 1. He's also got past another one of the Pumas, and that's car 12, which is Tim Sandu's ST150. So making very steady progress at the moment. In fact, if the timing screen's right, I'll try and reset that actually for a second, because I think that's, yeah, let's have a look if my timing screen is going to reset. Right, because it's got a different app going, I think. So there's an app going alongside with it. So let's see if it will reset itself for me. Anyway, meanwhile, watch this battle here. Sandu and Rob Lewis going at it. Good scrap going on out of the left-hander at Murray's, and I know that Rob has had some engine work on that ST150, so certainly with the work he's had done, it is working a treat at the moment, which is good to see. Some poke in a straight line, isn't it? Down towards Richie's he goes. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. Let's see if he can make up any more places. He's currently showing now is up into 16th place. From starting from the pit lane, essentially the back of the grid, up to 16th. There's a really good, strong drive so far for him. He's deep in the mid-pack, which is excellent. Now, though, this is interesting because Dave Cockle's been caught by Simon Light here with 2.5 minutes to go. So either this is Dave possibly just taking it a little bit steadier and wanted a bit of fun, a bit more of a race, or, dare I say it, touch wood, is there a problem developing? I don't think it is, because if there was, then you'd probably see the car would either come to the pit lane or have an issue. But I think possibly Dave just wants to have a bit of a play here and just enjoy himself at the front of the field and have a battle. And I think Simon Light is going to be in the mix here very shortly. These are the back markers, including Rob Lewis coming up, and there are the leaders heading into Agostini hairpin. A little bit deep in on the brakes for Agostini was Dave Matthias. It's Dave Matthias. Dave Cockle, sorry. Wrong Dave and a wrong Ford. Now they're coming up through past the Jason Stone Escort Viet Focus and another one of the Super Tune Pumas. Williams. They're going to have one more lap after they complete this one, so they're on the penultimate lap of the race this afternoon. Of course, this is the last sprint race today before we get into 4 hours of Fun Cup action. And you can see there, even Rob Lewis's car's got plenty of speed. It hasn't got as much horsepower as these two cars battling over the lead. So unless Dave Cockle really does have a problem, or he starts to have more issues, we are going to get a bit of a scrap here for the lead, because Simon Light is pushing like crazy in that Cobra engine Capri. It's a striking looking thing. It's really nicely sat down on its suspension, and also it's got a really nicely sat front splitter and rear wing. It's a really nicely proportioned car. It suits having rear wings and wider wheel arches. It's a far cry from cars that like Gordon Spice used to race in the British Saloon Car Championship. That Capri's been a bit more modified, as you can see. Nonetheless, with of course that V8 Capri engine. But down to the last lap goes our top two then. So it's Escort Cosworth versus V8 engine Capri for the lead and for the victory. And I suspect that Dave Cockell is either just playing with Simon Light here, or he's just deciding just to kind of only go as fast as he needs to keep the Capri of Light at bay. They come up through the hairpin at Wilson and then back on the power once again to head towards Palmer for the last time. And if TSL on my screen is going to be able to give me the info that I'm looking for, I will be able to at least give you an insight as to who's wearing the classes. So I think we'll do that. There's a bit of battle. This is oh, is that further? What's going on there? Is it further back? Oh, that was further back there. So they come back towards Oggies now for the last time. So Gappy's now 0.7 of a second. There goes another battle going here. That's Nigel Craig scrapping with John Edwards Parton. That's for Nigel Craig is third in Class B+, and that's now the Class C leader. I was going to run down the Class leaders. So Dave Cockell then in the Escort Cosworth has got just about less than half a lap to go to hold on to this, and he's making a bit of a theme of this. Anytime he enters a modified Ford race, he generally takes pole position, dominates the race, and then takes to home the winner's trophy every single time, bar any issues. And that car doesn't usually pick up any issues, touch wood. So the only issue I remember that car having was, it wasn't particularly mechanical failure as such, but at the first race that we ever had modified Fords at Donington Park, he was able to pick up a race win, and he's retired because he had the gear stick fall off. Not going to happen this time though, because up to the checkered flag will come Dave Cockell. Up to the stripe he comes, and it's another race win in the modified Ford Series for Dave Cockell and the Escort Cosworth, and he takes it by only 1.6 seconds from Simon Light in the V8. He'll enjoy that after a superb win. It's class wins all round also for in the A class for Cockell and for Super A for Simon Light too. It'll be second, third, and fourth in class, and third, fourth, and fifth overall for Ashley Shelswell, Stephen Scott Dunwoody and Dave Matthias. And look at that, 4 abreast on the straight with the Sierras making their way through with that traffic. It's on the sprint to the checkered flag. Careful, boys, you're not going to get there with doing stuff like that, but Shelswell does come across the line with those two very feisty Sierra Cosworths in 4th and 5th behind him. So all the way to the checkered flag, and they're still sprinting towards the line here in all the different classes behind. That's, I think, Jordan Sanders. Richard Sanders in the ST150, he's having a good scrap with the Pumas that puts 2 wheels onto the dirt as he comes across the line and beats him to the flag as well. That was Mark Hadfield in the number 21 Puma. He was so desperate to get past, he put 2 wheels on the dirt on the pit straight, and he just beat him by 17 1/1000ths of a second. That is extraordinary, but it's great racing all round from all these guys. And again, a big congratulations to all of them those that made the finish. And if you're watching in the chat, I implore you to start posting some of the clapping emojis, because these guys put on one heck of a show, and they've done it once again, which is brilliant to see. So well done to everyone in the modified Fords for another superb race. And the best thing is there's 2 more of these tomorrow. So if you like that one, come back for tomorrow, and there'll be 2 more modified Ford races for you to enjoy. So we can give you a quick confirmation. The last few cars are just coming past the checkered flag now to finish off. I think we've got 1 more still to come, and that's Mike Thurley's Mark 1 Zack Speed Escort, and then the rest will all be across the line accounted for those that are still running. Another race, another victory in the modified Ford Series for Dave Cockell. He's making a bit of a record of this, and that very formidable Escort Cosworth is difficult to beat on its day. When he really turns the boost up and goes full full power on that engine. I'm sure it runs somewhere around 600 to 700, 800 brake horsepower when he really dials it up to maximum. There's very few cars, if any, that can match that thing in a straight line. It is super quick. But decided to have a bit more of a play this afternoon. He might not admit it, but he definitely decided to keep Simon Light at bay as much as possible. A shame that we lost Jack Gadd in that race due to, I'm presuming, mechanical issues. It looked like he had some kind of an issue with the left front going down, but whether it was that or simply another mechanical issue in the engine or the transmission or electrics or something else that might cause a problem, that might be the case. So as the cars make their way into the little cut-in to Parc Ferme, we'll be able to give you a run-through of the finishing order. So Dave, just for the record, Dave Cockell, of course, race winner overall and wins Class A for his troubles, 1.6 seconds ahead of the Super A class winner, which was Simon Light and his Cobra engined Capri in second place. Third place and second in Class A goes to Ashley Shelswell, so he's third overall in the V6 Sierra XR4i. Then it's the two Sierra Cosmos that got very close with the back markers at the end, so we can give you the results in a second. We'll just run you through them. So Dave Matthias finishes ahead of Neil Jessup, and he wins Class B, does Neil Jessup in the Mark II Zach Speed car. Then it's Paul Neville, who, again, he did really well from the back of the grid to finish in 7th overall and win Class B+. What a drive from Paul Neville that was from the back of the grid. That's where we lost Mike Thurley, I'm afraid. His car's making stopping at the end of the race. Bonnet up on that car. And the marshal going, what's the problem, mate? Let me see if I can have a look. So, looking down the rest of the order, there's Paul Neville 7th. It was second place in the Class 4 for Tony Paxman and his Mark 1 Escort. 9th overall and second in B+ was Wayne Crabtree's Mark 1 Escort. And then sadly, I don't think Mike Thurley will be classified as being 10th, so everyone should move up one, I think. So rounding up the top 10, I think possibly should be, I think will be the 96 car of Nigel Craig and his Escort Mark II. Other class winners, I can quickly run you down. Class C was won by John Edwards Parson, his Escort Mark II. And the other class winner I can see in there also was Super Classic. Well, there wasn't actually, because I was going to say Jack Gadd, but he didn't finish the race. He was the only car, I think, in Super Classic in Super B. So he didn't make the flag, I'm afraid. We lost a few cars in that sequence. But now to our main event. I guess whilst we're doing that, let's quickly confirm the results then on the screen. So Dave Cockell wins then and wins his class in Class A. Simon Light wins Super A in second place overall. And Ashley Shelswell, Steve Scotland, Woody and Dave Matthias. Neil Jessup wins Class B, a B+ win for Paul Neville from the back of the grid. And then Tony Paxson, Wayne Crabtree, and I think it will be a result for Mike Thurley. Rob Lewis showing his 11th play. That was a really good drive from the pit lane for him. Smith in 12th, Sandy 13th, Kevin Hadfield 14th, then Jason Stone, Piers Warwick, Mark Hadfield, Richard Sanders, Anton Martin and more. And this is some of the retirements that we had throughout that race, unfortunately. Some of the cars not quite coping with the heat here at Snetterton, but hopefully they'll be fixed and ready for race 2 tomorrow. We lost the likes of Caitlin May, John Edwards Parton and more by the looks of it. So unfortunate problems for them, it seems, although my time is going to show that some of them did finish. So that's rather odd, because it shows me that, for example, that Rob Lewis is 15th and the likes of Edwards, Parton, May and Wise and others did actually make the flag. So unless there was a mass retirement at the end, I'm a bit confused by that. Maybe TSL having a bit confused, I think.